Right, welcome to the deep dive. We've got some really interesting material here today. We're looking at that Premier League final day.
Ah, yes, the big one.
Exactly. Where every single game kicks off at the exact same time.
Yeah.
Well, it's pretty unique.
It is, yeah. That synchronized chaos, 10 matches all happening at once. Often with so much still to play for, isn't it?
Definitely. You see the scores flashing up, league positions changing minute by minute sometimes. It's wild. So today, we're diving into why. Why does the Premier League schedule it like this?
We're digging into the history, the thinking behind it all.
Yeah, our mission really is to understand the whole point of it and what it actually means for the competition itself. Let's get into it.
Okay, so the basic fact is simple. Matchweek 38, final day, all 10 games kick off together.
And this year we know that specific time is Sunday, 16:00 BST. Though looking here, it hasn't always been 4 o'clock, right? Sometimes it was 3.
That's right, yeah. The exact hour has shifted a bit over the years, 3p meter, 4p meter, but the simultaneous part, that's the constant.
And the main reason, the core reason they do this, it's about integrity.
Exactly that, to retain the integrity of the competition. That's the line, anyway.
Integrity.
Good.
Yeah, let's unpack that a little. When we say integrity on the final day, what are we actually protecting? What's the risk?
Well, it really boils down to preventing an unfair advantage.
Yeah.
You've got to think about what's usually at stake.
Right. Could be the title itself or...
Or the fight for European places, Champions League, Europa, Conference League, even relegation sometimes, though maybe less so in recent years, right at the very end. Teams' goals are often linked.
Ah, so if Team A played early and won, and Team B needed Team A to drop points.
Exactly. If Team B played later, they'd know Team A had already won. They'd go into their game knowing, okay, we have to win now. Or maybe they'd know a draw is suddenly enough because a rival slipped up.
They get perfect information.
Perfect information. And that lets them change tactics, maybe sit back if a draw is all they need, or go all out attack if they now need a goal they didn't think they'd need. It removes that level playing field. Playing at the same time stops that clear informational edge.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense strategically. But there's a point made here that players do sometimes find out scores during the games. Doesn't that undermine it a bit?
That's true, yeah. You hear about it, someone on the bench gets word, maybe the crowd reacts to a goal elsewhere. It definitely happens.
So information still leaks through.
It does. But the thinking is, it doesn't completely negate the purpose. And the reason is, well, things can change so incredibly quickly on a football pitch, right up to the final seconds.
And you can't talk about final day changes without bringing up that Aguero goal, can you? 2011-12.
Oh, absolutely. The Aguero moment is the textbook example, isn't it? That goal in stoppage time.
Unbelievable.
It didn't just win the game. It literally snatched the title for Manchester City in the dying moments. It just shows knowing a score with, say, 10 minutes left is totally different from knowing the final confirmed result.
Because it can all flip.
It can all flip on its head. So the jeopardy, the uncertainty, it's stave high across all the grounds right until the whistles actually go. Everything is still live.
It makes you think, though, was it always like this?
Yeah.
This big simultaneous final day drama?
Good question. And looking at the history provided here, no, actually, it wasn't. This tradition is, relatively speaking, quite new in Premier League terms.
Oh, really? I sort of assumed it was baked in from the start, 1992.
Not at all. That first season, 92-93, apparently finished with just 2 games on a Tuesday night.
A Tuesday, after the weekend.
Yeah, after all the other teams had already played over the weekend before. Sort of fizzled out, really. Not quite the big bang finish we expect now.
Okay, so when did it start to look more like today?
Well, a couple years later, 94-95, they got closer. 10 of the final 11 games were played on the Sunday. That was the day Blackburn won the league, actually.
I remember that. But still not all 10.
No. There was still one straggler. Wimbledon versus Nottingham Forest was played the day before on the Saturday. So almost there, but not quite the full synchronization.
Right. So the big question then, when did the tradition of all final day matches kicking off the exact same time actually begin?
That started the very next season, 1995-96. Sunday, May 5th, 1996. That was the first time all the final day fixtures ticked off together, and, well, they stuck with it ever since.
Wow. Okay, so 95, 96, that's quite a while now, nearly 30 years. But
yeah,
not from the very beginning. Interesting they decided to change it.
Seems they realized the potential issues, or maybe just the potential for drama.
Has there ever been a time since then when they haven't done it? Any exceptions?
Just the one major one mentioned here was the 2015-16 season, Manchester United against Bournemouth at Old Trafford.
Ah, I remember that. the bomb scare.
That's the one. The match was postponed, understandably, and had to be played 2 days later after everything else was finished. A necessary exception, of course, but definitely stands out as the only real break in that tradition since '96.
And it's not just about the title or relegation, is it? The sources mention all the other stuff going on. That scramble for Europe, for instance.
Absolutely. Sometimes even, eighth place might sneak into Europe, depending on cup results? It's complex.
And the manager's press conferences in the build-up, knowing one result could change everything for them.
Yeah, the simultaneous kickoff just throws fuel on all those fires, doesn't it? It means the race for 5th, 6th, 7th place stays completely alive and unpredictable across several different grounds right until the end.
It makes the whole narrative so much more intense.
Definitely. One goal somewhere else can suddenly change the entire picture for your team. That's why those final day radio commentaries or live blogs are so frantic.
Okay, so let's sort of wrap our heads around this. The main takeaway seems to be that this simultaneous final day kickoff, it's not just for show. It's a deliberate thing brought in back in 95-96, specifically to uphold fairness.
Right. To maintain the integrity of the competition. That's a fundamental reason. Leveling the playing field when potentially so much is riding on those results across the league.
To stop teams getting that late advantage of knowing exactly what they need to do.
Precisely. It protects against that potential for strategic game playing based on other results already being known.
And for you listening, when you watch that final day, think about how that simultaneous timing changes things for you. Does knowing every goal, every moment is happening concurrently across the country, does that heighten the experience?
It must do, surely. It creates this incredible shared tension. You're not just invested in one match, you're plugged into this whole network of possibilities. A cheer in one stadium might mean despair in another, all happening live.
So the integrity angle is the official justification. But you could argue that this synchronized chaos is actually what makes the final day maybe the most dramatic, most compelling day of the whole season. Does knowing the why behind it all change how you feel about that shared tension? Does that focus on fairness actually create even better drama? What really stands out to you when you watch it all unfold at once? Something to think about next time Matchweek 38 rolls around.